You're 100% wrong on abortion. This is where personal opinion interferes with God. It is not merciful to dismember a small baby. You are sick, and God already said he disagreed. Their blood is on your hands. Okay, well, talk about judgment, like the Pharisees there. So, first of all, I'm not talking about doing late term abortion here. I'm totally against that. I'm talking about if early on, okay? Child is molested, not at a place where that child, maybe it's even in their physical best interest. But let's just focus on the God part, since you don't give a shit about the human part of it. You just want to, can't abortion. I mean, it's this. This is why this is the struggle I have with the right, is the religious far right, because it's this holier than thou attitude that we know best and we stand on life. But then if both of them die because the child who's pregnant really isn't fully developed to be able to deliver that child, and both of them die, will that mean the blood's on your hands? Because you didn't want to use sound judgment? Because you didn't want to stop and think? From the Bible, may the offspring of evildoers nevermore be named. Prepare slaughter for his sons because of the guilt of their fathers, lest they rise and possess the earth and fill the face of the world with cities. Old Testament. Okay, so the Old Testament, God told you not to murder either, but then this is where it gets confusing for people, right? So then how do you reconcile all that? Because God says in other places that no, the sins of the son shouldn't be a guilt on the father and vice versa. And obviously, this is speaking of evildoers. This would be like your Canaanites that literally would pass on their destruction, which is why in the Old Testament God would have wanted them all eliminated. But there's no reasoning here. So first of all, Jesus in the New Testament, however, said that you're not born again. He doesn't know you until you're born again. How many times does Jesus say it's not about the flesh? I'm not for a baby being dismembered, but when it's the 6-8 week mark, 6-7 week mark, I mean, that's it's not dismembering anything. I'm talking about having compassion here, having mercy. And if you want to say that I'm their blood is on my hands, well, then at least with God, I'll get at least a fair court to where I can make my case, because God knows my heart, and my heart isn't about dismembering babies. It's about having mercy. And I think that was the point. That was what nobody was getting in the Old or the New Testament. Now, many people started getting it because the apostles went on to preach that word. But you far religious right that think that you're the holy rollers, right? That no, it's wrong. It's wrong. You don't ever consider the circumstances. I'm not for abortion as a form of birth control. I'm not for it in the late or even the middle stages of pregnancy. But I think this is one of those areas where there has to be some sound judgment. It makes absolutely, I do not, let's say that you and I go before the high court, the court of God, okay? And you demanded that this 12-year-old that gets pregnant because somebody molested her, and let's say there's, a nationwide abortion ban, so there's no chance for that child to have an abortion. But then it's not physically in her best interest to have it. So then her and the baby dies. That would be my argument to the high court, is that I'm considering life. Are you? No, because you're just doing like the Pharisees did. No, Jesus, you can't heal anybody on the Sabbath. Not using reason. Not using reason, just saying, no, God said this. When really the flesh was that what was most important to God? No. What was most important to him was the life of the Spirit. And the Spirit's always with him anyway. I think that I know that the far right, I've had this argument with you guys. I said in another video yesterday that I've you're not going to change, but can I say this in the kindest way that I can, is that you're really not being any different than the Pharisees, though. Because it's real easy to say, no, we don't support murder. Okay. Do you support mercy, though? Do you support mercy? Instead of saying it's murder, it's a matter of can you have any compassion in your heart? Because Jesus had that. Jesus was compassionate. He had mercy. He was about the law, but he understood when there's times that you bend and break the law. Because he did in the Old Testament, it was literally told to the Israelites, you absolutely will never break the Sabbath, and for no reason at all. So do you think that maybe what God did was these are the conflicting things sometimes. And I don't think it's because God is conflicted or confused. I think it's because God knows you're going to come into these stumbling blocks, these ethical dilemmas. And if you just want to be a Pharisee and say, no, we stand for life, no, never, then there's no sound judgment in that. It's not considering people that have been raped. It's not showing any compassion or care that Jesus wanted us to have. So, yeah, you can say that their blood is on my hands, okay? And I'll take that to the high court someday and say, no, this is my reasoning. You know my heart. I in no way want to have people's blood on my hands. I'm trying to consider mercy here. So, the Pharisees will always be around.